NXT took place tonight in Orlando, Florida from the WWE Performance Center. Now, before I get into the show, I want to talk about some news that broke earlier today, and that was the fact that Duke Hudson was let go by the WWE. He was formerly part of Chase University. He was former tag team champion. Extremely unfortunate news. I like Duke. I enjoyed the Chase U act. I liked Andre Chase and, of course, Tia Hale. I like the presentation. The whole notion that Chase U can never get over on the main roster, I can see parts of that, but I thought it just really worked at NXT. I don't see why they had to get rid of it. I think they could have at least given it a chance. You never know. We've seen wacky things get over. Even if it only works for like a few months and people get tired of it, at the very least you're selling some merchandise. And that Chase U shirt sold like hell in NXT. It just really sucks. I really feel bad for the guy. Anyway, we started the show off. We had a JC Jane coming up first, and she took on Stephanie Vacker. Okay matchup. Vacker wins. We all knew she would, and she has a bright future in this company. Can't say the same about JC Jane. And JC, of course, was accompanied by Paxley, Jasmine Nex, and the current NXT North American Women's Champion, that being one Fallon Henley, who will face Stephanie Vacker at Vengeance Day. Backstage, we see Zaria Sol Ruka, who's her tag team partner, Lash legend, Jakara Jackson, and yet Zaria making fun of Lash for coming up short in the Royal Rumble and losing the tag team title match last Tuesday. Then you have Shotzi and her group, comprised of Tatum Paxley and Gigi Dolan, interrupt and basically had a confrontation where Zaria had to be held back by Sol Ruka, and I just think Sol Ruka and Zaria do not fit each other as a team. There's nothing in common. One's a hot surfer, the other one's this dark character. Like, they don't fit. I mean, can one of them can they be even more opposite from each other? Imagine like the scary goth girl teaming with the hot, like the blonde surfer. Like, they're polar opposites. They just don't work with each other. I think Sol has so much more potential, and Zaria I don't think has anything here. It's Sarah Scraper interviewing Obafemi backstage. He's hyping up his match tonight, which is a tag team match where he teams with Trick Williams. Lexis King promo. He's interrupted by Fandango. When they heard that Fandango music, man, the crowd erupted. And I thought to myself, it wasn't too long ago when WWE had awesome theme songs that everyone could recognize. Fandango was so recognizable. And the theme songs like 10, 15 years ago are so much better than they are today. We have the worst theme songs ever today. It sucks so bad. People don't talk. People are way too critical of CFOs, and like people don't realize how horrible Def Rebel is, which in my opinion is by far and away the worst era of WWE music ever. Is this current era with Def Rebel? They suck. Fuck Def Rebel. Anyway, cool moment. He's presenting from TNA. He's representing them. So I think it's the last time we get to hear the Fandango music. But they're gonna have a match next week, and that should be fun. You had the D'Angelo family backstage. They're talking about what's happening. It's not much. And there was a whole bunch of other stuff backstage as well. You have Ridge Holland taking on Stax. Ridge wins. I think Ridge isn't going anywhere. I think he might join Duke Hudson on the unemployment line very soon. I don't see anything with Ridge Holland here. Axiom and Nathan Frazier are challenged by these two guys, the two Jack guys, Briggs and his tag team partner who can't speak English. Don't let him speak, okay? Just don't let the guy talk. He can't speak English. Let him learn. He can keep learning English. He can learn English lessons. Stop having him talk. It hurts him and undermines him. He can't speak it clearly, and it's not in the team's interest to have him speak. But let's have Briggs speak. Sol Ruka and Zaria took on Gigi Dolan and Tatum Paxley with Shotzi while watching, and I'm sure Shotzi's still a little bit upset that she lost her Royal Rumble spot. She was supposed to have, I think, Alexa Bliss's spot. But, she was clearly, I mean, in all seriousness, come on, Shotzi, you weren't going to get that kind of pop. But I think she was a little disappointed. She didn't get to wrestle here either. Basically, Sol Ruka pinned Gigi Dolan with her finisher. They win. Bad. Then we have backstage, we see Julia, Roxanne Perez, and Bayley all heading to the ring for probably the most prominent segment on the show. He had Sarah Scrape interviewing Trick Williams as we come from the break. Then we get our big Vengeance Day Summit with Julia, Roxanne Perez, and Bayley. So you had Bayley come out first, then you had Roxanne Perez, And they're going back and forth. We don't see Julia for a while. Roxanne's bragging about her performance in the Royal Rumble. Bayley and Roxanne are taking jabs at each other. Bayley, they're basically hyping up their match. That's going to happen. It's not going to happen in 2 weeks at Vengeance Day at the new PLA because that's a triple threat with Julia. And Julia's obviously going to win. I think that's obvious. But I think Stand and Deliver, we're getting Bayley and Roxanne. I don't think Bayley, I think that's better. Even if Bayley has to miss WrestleMania, she won't be at WrestleMania this year having a match. I think this is a bigger deal, having a match at Roxanne. She's going to lose, obviously, but I think that's actually a better place for her than just being, I don't even know if she'll have a match at WrestleMania this year because there's limited spots. WWE isn't as generous as they used to be with the women and the men. They didn't do the big battle royals. Previous years in WrestleMania, they just have all the men on in a match being the Andre Battle Royal and all the women to be in the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal. They don't do that much as much in the Paul Levesque era. They just have them on SmackDown. So, I think it's better for Bayley to have the match at Roxanne because she might not even get a WrestleMania match. But they're setting it up. Julia finally comes out, and man, I noticed her English isn't very good. That's too bad. She still needs practice, but she's trying. The thing with Julia is, I think if someone sees her, they might think she's not Japanese because she looks more, with the blonde hair, she looks more like someone you would think from Europe. But, she actually has a thick Japanese accent, so I think someone might be a little bit confused when they first see her. But Julia, I really like her. I like her look. She's very beautiful. She's a beautiful madness. But, her English could be a little bit better here. And they kept her limited, which was smart. I wish they'd do the other thing about the other guy I was talking about. Anyway, she's going back and forth with them. Then they're interrupted by the woman who's always announced to be on NXT tonight, Charlotte Flair, who gets a decent reaction from Performance Center, unlike from Cleveland, Ohio, at Raw last night. They kind of like Charlotte. They weren't booing at all. They don't like Charlotte the same way they like Bayley, and that should be understandable. Charlotte wasn't in NXT as much. She was pushed as a heel. Bayley was someone the crowd always got behind, and seeing her win was a great moment, especially when she won the belt from Sasha Banks at NXT Brooklyn. They really got into Bayley, so Charlotte just isn't as revered there as Bayley. Bayley is easily the most over the four horsewomen there, so it makes more sense. But they like Charlotte, so they don't hate her. But Charlotte has to play the heel, so she's basically trying to get the fans to boo her because they've probably made the decision to go heel with her after the reception last week. But they like her, and she's playing the heel. Then you had, she's basically teasing to be in the WrestleMania match for the NXT title like she had 5 years ago when she challenged Rhea Ripley. No one believes it. Nobody believes it. I don't believe it for 1 second. I didn't even pay attention much to what you were saying because when she mentioned that, I was thinking, yeah, right. But then you had Cora Jade coming out. She from behind, she jumps Julia and Bayley. She beats them down with the stick. Then she goes at Roxanne. She swings at Roxanne. Roxanne ducks. I don't know if that was part of a work or part of the storyline where her and Cora are setting up to make a thing like they're against each other. I like them as a duo. I don't want to see them split. I like Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade, but at the same time, Roxanne's going to the main roster, I think, night after WrestleMania. I wouldn't call her up now. I think that's a mistake, but she's going probably night after WrestleMania. And Cora Jade, she's still going to be in NXT. She ain't going to the main roster anytime soon, so they still want to push her to top stars. No point of keeping the alliance. I actually wouldn't mind them one time on the main roster reuniting because I think they're an effective team. I like them together. But that's how that ended. And I think we'll play later into the show. Ava Raine has security separate Javon Evans and Ethan Page. She sets up the match for Judgment Day. You had the D'Angelo family backstage, confronted by Ridge Holland. Izzy named and recommends Choli take on Ridge in a cage match next week, which was later announced. You had Kalani Jordan taking on Carmen Petrovich. So you had Jada Parker on commentary, and she has her headset on, but instead of actually sitting on a chair beside the announcers, she's sitting on top of the desk with the headset over her head. And I thought to myself, I think we'd all like to be the announcers right there. Anyway, the match was just okay. I like Kalani, but Carmen, I don't see anything in Carmen Petrovich, I'll be honest. Kalani Jordan, I think she has potential. She needs more work. Same thing applies to Jada Parker, who I think is more along. She probably could go to the main roster soon. She's really good. I like Jada Parker, but Carmen Petrovich, I just don't see it, man. It's just the storyline's bothering me. It's the worst fucking storyline of throwing to Shanti. At least they're phasing it out a bit. Anyway, Kalani wins with her submission, but Jada gets into her head. She taunts her and pisses Kalani off. So she keeps choking poor Carmen, and then eventually the call is reversed and it's called disqualification victory for Carmen Petrovich, and Kalani Jordan loses. So Jada Parker is in her head. We go to the parking lot. Stephanie Vaquer. She cuts a good promo on Fallon Henley outside for her match at Vengeance Day. There was people looking at her. I don't know if when they do the whole outside behind the camera, they sometimes have the camera follow the wrestler, and there's people walking in the background. There's so many Easter eggs. Like, you have to sometimes be careful with that with NXT. Backstage, Bayley confronts Ava Raine. She wants Cora Jade, and she officially announces the match next week. She even said she didn't care if Cora Jade's added to the match. I don't know if that's a hint, but they could add Cora and make it a fatal four-way. I think the match would probably be better. Those are triple threat, but Cora's probably going to have a role. She'll probably interfere. Ava is confronted then by Briggs and his partner. She makes some random match I don't care about. Johnny D'Angelo and Rich Holland is announced for a cage match next week, and then you have Lexis King and JDC, who's the name of the former Fandango. Sarah Screamer introduced A-Town Down. They're using tensions again. Go to the main event, A-Town Down Under versus Oba Femi and Trick Williams. It's a standard tag team main event. In the end, Eddie Thorpe comes out and he whips Trick with a strap, and this allows Austin Theory to hit his finisher and win. And they get the win, so they get momentum, and Trick Williams loses, and he's not going to be added to the Fatal 4-Way match to make it a Fatal 4-Way match. It's still going to be a triple threat, and we're going to get Eddie Thorpe and Trick Williams at Vengeance Day. That's pretty obvious. So that was NXT this week. Yeah, I'll be honest, I was a little bit tired of wrestling. Usually whenever we have a major pay-per-view like a Rumble or a show at that level, it's kind of like, I'm kind of tired right now. I wouldn't mind a break, especially after Raw. Wouldn't mind a break. I'm going to get one for a couple of days, but that was NXT. Really focused on the build to Vengeance Day, and we'll see what happens next.